الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا وحبيبنا وإمام المتقين أما بعد. In continuing regarding effects of the sins on the people, we mentioned a number of them yesterday. But the things that is mentioned in relation to the effects of the sins that will have on a people, is the hadith in the Sahihain when the Prophet Muhammad mentioned in hadith Abdullah bin Umar عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال عذبت امرأة في هرة حبستها حتى ماتت فدخلت النار لا هي أطعمتها ولا سقتها ولا تركتها تأكل من خشاش. It mentioned regarding this hadith that the Prophet Muhammad mentioned there's a woman who was punished due to a cat or a kitten that she had imprisoned until it died. She never, فدخلت النار, so she entered the hellfire. She's due to a kitten, a small cat that she had kept imprisoned, locked, chained away. She neither fed it nor gave it anything to drink at all. She left it eating from whatever it can find on the ground until death came to it. Due to this, she's been punished in the hellfire. That a person is to know oppression in all shapes and forms is haram. Whether it's to mankind or animals or any of Allah's creation. Allah mentions إني حرمت الظلم على نفسي وجعلته بينكم محرما فلا تظالموا. Allah has prohibited oppression upon us also. Something is prohibited, so none should fall into oppression. So, of the things that is to be understood, the sins may have an impact in this life in terms of being cut off from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, people distance themselves away from you, but the impact in the hereafter is greater. The punishment that awaits a person. Things will not be the same every day. So it's important yet for a person to contemplate that there is also a consequence of sin in the hereafter. Also, the things that's mentioned regarding Bani Israel, it mentioned قيل لحذيفة, it was said about Hudayfa, or said to him, في يوم واحد تركت بنو إسرائيل دينهم. Did Bani Israel leave their religion in one day? قال لا ولكنهم كانوا إذا أمروا بشيء تركوه وإذا نهوا عن شيء ركبوه حتى انسلخوا من دينهم كما ينسلخ الرجل من قميصه. He mentioned, did they leave the religion in one day? He said no. Rather, whenever they were commanded of something, they would leave it. And whenever they were prohibited from something, they would fall into it. Until they slipped out of their religion, just like a man slipping out of his shirt. The way you take off your top, that's how they came out of their religion. What was the cause of them leaving their religion? Sins. That's why they mentioned, بعد السلف قالوا المعاصي بريد الكفر كما أن القبلة بريد الجماع والغناء بريد الزنا والنظر بريد العشق وَالْمَرَضْ بَرِيدُ الْمَوْتِ. All the things that's mentioned, that some of the Salaf, they said, sin is like the path to kufr. Al-Barid is like the letter, the post. It means it leads a person to kufr, disbelief. Just like a kiss leads to intercourse. Just like singing leads to zina. Just like looking leads to that fanatic love, that crazy love, al-ishq. And that's what the person who asked this question was afflicted with, al-ishq. A person loves someone madly. وَالْمَرَضْ بَرِيدُ الْمَوْتِ. And sickness, it leads to death. So the effect of sins is great. You don't know what sin is going to have the most impact on you. Because a person may fall into a certain sin and persist in that sin until it causes them to leave Islam. Wallahu musta'an. Ibn Sa'ad would say, Bilal ibn Sa'ad would say, as collected in by Imam Ahmad, بلال بن سعد يقول لا تنظر إلى صغر الخطيئة ولكن انظر من عصيت. Don't look at the smallness of your sin, but look at the greatness. Look at who you're disobeying. Don't have it in your mind, the sin is small, it's okay, it's not that deep. But look at the significance of who you're actually disobeying. It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Person disobeying Allah Azza wa Ta'ala. Also it's mentioned that Fudayl ibn Iyad used to say, بقدر ما يصغر الذنب عندك يعظم عند الله وبقدر ما يعظم عندك يصغر عند الله. The way that you see a sin being small to you, the greater it is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the greater that you see a sin with you, the smaller it is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When a person sees a sin as not being that deep, it's not that bad, they don't really care. But look at the Sahaba say, كُنَّا نَعُدُّ الصَّغَائِرَ أَبَادًا. The Sahaba, they used to say, we used to see the minor sins as major sins. Being able to view sins like that is what allows you to stay away from them. So now you see something grave, something major. And that's when it's seen smaller by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah knows you, you honor Allah, you fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when it becomes easy for you, that you don't care, it's insignificant, that's when it's seen as even greater sin with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Oh, the thing that's also mentioned, things that I said of Israeliyat, أوحى الله تعالى إلى موسى يا موسى إن أول من مات من خلقي إبليس وذلك أنه عصاني وإنما أعد من عصاني من الأموات. والله أعلم بصحة هذا الكلام. But the things that I mentioned, that when Allah revealed to Musa Islam, said, "Oh Musa, the first of my creation who died is Iblis." And that is because he disobeyed me. And I consider those who disobey me as deceased. The one who lives in disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, قلبه ميت. الذي لا يذكر الله قلبه ميت. الذي لا حظ له من الإيمان قلبه ميت. When he doesn't obey Allah, his heart has no iman, his heart is dead. Nothing. Subhanallah. Also, we have the hadith in Musnad والجامع الترمذي مسند الإمام أحمد من حديث أبي صالح عن أبي هريرة قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن المؤمن إذا أذنب نكت في قلبه نكتة سوداء فإن تاب ونزع واستغفر صقل قلبه وإن زادت حتى تعلو فذلك الران الذي ذكر الله عز وجل كلا بل ران على قلوبهم ما كانوا يكسبون. Mrs. Hadith Prophet said, when the believer falls into a sin, a black dot is placed in their heart. If they repent and remove that sin from their life, seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, their heart will be cleansed. If they continue, it will overcome their heart, covered in that blackness. فَذَلِكَ الرَّانُ, that is the ran, that is the meaning of al-ran that Allah mentions. كَلَّا بَلْ رَانَ عَلَى قُلُوبِهِمْ, it sealed their hearts. Rather it sealed their hearts. That which sealed their heart is that which they used to earn of sin. That which they used to do of sin is what caused their heart to be sealed and covered in darkness. Also, the thing that's mentioned by Imam Ahmad in his book Az-Zuhud, he mentioned عن محمد بن سيرين أنه لما ركبه الدين اغتم لذلك فقال إني لا أعرف هذا الغم بذنب أصبته منذ 40 سنة. Within this, he mentioned that when he had a form of a debt, he had some form of worry that afflicted him. And he mentioned, I know what is the cause of this. It's from a sin that I fell into 40 years ago. Of the things that we can look at from here, the ability to take yourself to account and remember your shortcomings, knowing that you have to seek forgiveness, knowing that you have to have that remorse, that you wouldn't want to return back to that sin. And he mentioned because of this, you have to pay a close attention to this dot that comes on your heart. Of the major mistakes people make regarding this is that they don't see an immediate impact of their sins, so they don't give it any importance. وقد يتأخر تأثيره فينسى ويظن العبد أنه لا يغبر بعد ذلك. For example, a person, the effect of that sin may be delayed to the point they even forget about it. It's forgotten about. So they don't think anything's going to happen to them after this. There's no consequence. Even sometimes you think about when brothers, they have war with each other for a long period of time and they never settle it. And maybe 10 years ago they don't talk. And if you ask them what was the cause of your problem, they may not even remember. But because of all the evil that's piled up now in that, they've been able to make peace. Yet they don't even remember the issue that caused them to go separate ways in the first place. And this is the effect of sin. Islam gives us principle. If we uphold those principles, we find ourselves upon goodness. When we stray away from those principles, that's when we find ourselves in misery. These principles revolve around the rights that Allah has given us. When the rights are observed in Islam, we have rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, rights of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, rights between the rest of the creation. And from the rights that Allah has upon us, that we seek His forgiveness, that we obey Him, we stay away from His commands. When we fall short in that, then we have to seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. From the rights of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is what? That we honor him, we follow him as he taught us to. The rights of the rest of the creation matters over how you are with your neighbors, how you deal with people of innovation, how you deal with people of sin, family ties, all of these matters. When there's differences between the Muslims, what do? How do you make islah? And the likes. All of these matters are governed in Islam. When we transgress the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the limits that Allah has set, then we're falling into disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we don't see the impact of it until later. For example, for many years people have transgressed in the name of the Sunnah. Many people have transgressed with the name of the Sunnah, saying that this is the Sunnah. And whoever doesn't agree with them, they're off. They're people of innovation. And when you ask these people, not time for question. When you ask these people, why these people of innovation, they don't have evidence. It's because you don't agree with their own principles, not the principles of Islam, their self-established principles that benefit them. So what happens now, you have individuals, they cut ties with brothers that were known to be upon the Sunnah for years. Or brothers that you didn't know for anything but the Sunnah. And if we look at, this has been going on for a number of years. Now, we witnessed it when we weren't married, didn't have children. And throughout the years we got married, we had children, and now our children are going to school. And where do we see the harms of the impact of the way brothers dealt with each other in the name of the Sunnah unjustly? We have no education system for our children. We are fighting to preserve the Islam of our children because of what they're exposed to in the public schools. We have no group economics to be able to support each other when people don't have the ability to pay for private Islamic education. We have nothing. Our masajid are disheveled. Why? Because allowing things that are not foundations of Islam to come between the Muslims. This is just on a local level. Now let's look at on a greater level, the weakness of the Ummah in sight of what's happening with the Muslims that are oppressed, not only in Palestine, all over the world. and the lack of strength. Why? Because they're not uniting upon the same thing that the companions united upon, the Quran and the Sunnah. The moment you stray from this, you will never ever have unity. It's not possible. That's why the Salaf used to say, you'll never be victorious if you have Ahlul Bid'ah in the ranks. If people of innovation are in the ranks, you will not be victorious. Why? Because they will oppose the command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All it takes is one command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet to be disobeyed, and great calamity can befall the Ummah. Just as we saw in Battle of Uhud, 50 archers told to hold their ground. 40 of them left to seek the war booty. Only 10 remained. Everyone, all those 10 murdered. You see. And that's when the Prophet was struck in his face. When they thought they actually killed the Prophet Muhammad. But how did that calamity get to that level? Because they disobeyed the command of the Prophet Muhammad. So imagine now, the more people go towards innovation, they leave off the Sunnah. And when we go towards the direction of innovation and we leave the Sunnah, we are further away from that which united the Salaf, that which united the Sahaba. And then when you trying to have discussions of how to bring the Muslims together, everything mentioned is political. It's not about the Quran and the Sunnah and that which was agreed upon by the Salaf of this Ummah. And that's why you find the conversation will happen again and again and again, and the fruits will be minimal. The only way to be triumphant, successful, and victorious is to have the same mannerisms and attributes that those who bore the flag of Islam at the time of the Prophet Muhammad had. Those characteristics. That level of Islam. The moment we stray from that, you see the black dots that have happened again and again and again, straying from that, guys, the state that we're in now. The state of affairs of the Muslims now. Wallahu musta'an. And this is when the person has to look at the effect of their actions and their statements and transgression in the name of the Sunnah. Because from the sifat of Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, they bring people together upon the haqq. Their duty is not to push people away. Even the people of innovation, you're supposed to go, advise them, counter their articles, their writings with that which is correct, to preserve the correct teachings of Islam. But today you have people who think the Sunnah is only with them. Allahu musta'an. Ajib. Also, from the things that a person is to understand from the effects of their sins, they distance you from the places of worship. Some people, they will never enter the masjid because they feel they're too sinful to enter the masjid. Shaitan will tell them, the likes of you can't go to those places. So when they distance themselves from the masjid, what they distance themselves from? Salah. Worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when they end up in that situation, what do they have? Where will they go? Except to the places where they disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's one of the ways where you see that Al-Ma'asi barid al-Kufr. That disobedience will lead to kufr. Because a person may disobey Allah so much, they leave off the salah in totality. فَمَاتَ كَافِرًا. Whoever leaves off the salah in totality, kafir, disbeliever. That's the reality. But of the things that lead a person to leaving off the salah is sin. As we know, the salah is one of the things that help a person stay away from sin. As I mentioned, in the salah tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. The salah forbids evil doings and immorality and evil. If a person leaves off the salah, هذا يؤدي إلى الكفر. If a person leaves off the salah, this will lead a person to disbelief. ويموت الإنسان ولا حد له من الإسلام. Person dies, they have no Islam. يموت موت الكافر. They die as if there's times when someone's come and they come to the masjid, their friend died. Their friend's famous for disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I said, did this person pray? Don't even know. Yeah, we're not doing janazah here. Imagine someone goes to see if they can pray your janazah in the masjid of sunnah, they say, no, we don't want it here. Because the person who died is not known for goodness. So they go somewhere else. And what happens? You end up being taken to a masjid that's not known for the sunnah. The people are known for grave worship maybe. But they will do your janazah. And the people of Tawheed, the people that worship Allah, people of the sunnah, they won't attend your janazah. Why? Because you was a person of evil. So those good signs that a person is seeking, the type of people that enter the janazah, come and follow their janazah, follow their burial, bury them, make dua for them, the good quality of the Muslims, none of them is there. Now situation, people throwing drugs and alcohol in the grave, thinking that person's going to benefit from it. Yet that's what's led them to a tormenting punishment. These are the effects of sin. As we said, don't be deceived that you don't see the immediate impact of your sin, that you're okay. It's when you become persistent in that sin, that's what you become busy with, that you don't even benefit anymore. And in some cases, you don't even worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala anymore. And then it comes to a stage where you don't even have shyness, you become like an animal. You don't even hide your sin anymore. It becomes public. And when you don't even care anymore, that's when you find, subhanAllah, how many people do we know from our community that we saw upon Islam and now we don't even know if they're Muslim anymore? But how did they get to that stage? Because of persistency in sin. You're not turning back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And these are the things, the more a person reminds himself of the harms of sins, they fear falling into them. But the one who deceives himself and finds they have security, they'll be tested even more. The Muslim is to strive to rectify himself, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to rectify their affairs, and remind themselves the consequences of their actions as a means to seek aid from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and staying away from disobedience to Allah Azza wa Jalla. And of the most important things as well is remembering Allah's favor upon you. All of the favors Allah has bestowed upon you, they necessitate gratitude, not disobedience. I will stop there, inshallah. Tomorrow we'll continue after Dhuhr with the disease and its cure. We finished the other book. So tomorrow after Dhuhr, inshallah, we will start, we'll continue with this book, bi'idhnillahi ta'ala, between Dhuhr and Asr, inshallah ta'ala. بارك الله فيكم وصلى وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم. There will be no tafsir class today, inshallah. Not today, tomorrow we'll resume, inshallah.